today we're going to be discussing the performance standards proposed by the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, for carbon dioxide emitted from new power plants. This is a hearing that's similar to one we held last fall, but this time we have the opportunity to hear directly from the EPA about this important issue. And I'd like to thank Acting Administrator Janet McCabe for being here today, and also like to thank the witnesses on our first panel for their thoughtful testimony, which I've reviewed. Last year, President Obama laid out an agenda to address one of the biggest environmental challenges of our time, climate change. A key component of that plan in any effort to reduce the amount of carbon emitted by the United States is the need to significantly lower the amount of carbon produced during electricity generation. Emissions from power plants represent about a third of the greenhouse gases produced by the United States, and EPA's proposed rule takes an important first step in tackling this major source of carbon pollution. To emphasize, the proposed rule sets carbon limits on new power plants, not existing plants or those under construction. Looking at current and future market conditions, especially competitive natural gas prices, it is likely that many, if not most, new power plants will be able to meet the proposed carbon limits. It's the market, not the proposed rule, that's contributing to the proliferation of natural gas power plants over coal. In my home state of Oregon, for example, our last coal plant is scheduled to be closed by 2020, and some of that generation capacity will be replaced with a natural gas plant. The proposed EPA rule will create a market incentive for the continued development and promotion of carbon capture and storage, or CCS, technologies. The advancement of CCS technologies is essential if new coal power plants are to operate in the low-carbon future we must achieve. I also want to point out that when EPA determines the best system of emission reduction, it is actually required to promote the development of technology. I'm sure we'll hear much more on the state of CCS technologies from today's witnesses. That technology development is good for the economy and good for the Earth. Last week, we debated the EPA's proposed carbon limits on the House floor. Some called into question whether CCS was adequately demonstrated because the technology is not commercially available. There's a difference between the two. The legal requirement is adequately demonstrated, and the EPA has met that burden. Let me close by saying that I know many of my colleagues across the aisle are skeptical about whether humans contribute to climate change, but the scientists overwhelmingly are not. And my constituents are not, and indeed they're seeing the impacts of climate change and asking policymakers to act. This winter's reduced snowpack not only means a shorter ski season and less of an economic boost from tourism, but it means less water for agriculture and salmon migration this spring and summer. The acidity of the Pacific Ocean is increasing, putting Oregon's fisheries and shellfish industries at risk. Warmer temperatures are leading to increased outbreaks of the mountain pine beetle, harming Northwest forest industry, and warming temperatures are making it more challenging to grow our region's famous Pinot Noir grapes, big part of the economy in Oregon. So the impacts are real. We must do all we can to mitigate the effects of climate change. The carbon dioxide we release will now affect generations to come. I'm supportive of the Administration's efforts to transition the United States to a lower carbon economy, and the EPA's proposed rule for new power plants is a critical step in that direction. Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.